Can you see me? Oh, I'm stuck. I can see you. Can you see me?
It looks fine on my end,
Oh,
Katie.
really? Oh, that's so weird. Okay. Well, that's fine. Hello. I can't see me, but I believe you. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. For some reason, my screen is frozen. So if there anything happens and you can't hear me, let me know. But welcome to class. Welcome to Cannoli class. Thank you, Rich, for such a lovely intro. Yeah, I still see Rich's screen too. Rich, for some reason. Oh, there we go. We got it.
My fault.
Hey, it's like I can't see me. That's fine. I don't need to see me. Perfect. Hello. Welcome, everybody. My name is Katie. For those of you I haven't met, although I feel like I know a lot of you already by now, we're here every Thursday baking here with Michaels, which is so much fun. As Rich mentioned, I'm a pastry chef, and I also get to teach these lovely baking classes with you guys every week. And today's is extra special. I've been waiting for it too. I love cannoli. I was kind of mad. I forgot to make a coffee right before class, and I feel like coffee and cannoli is like my ultimate. So I'll do that afterwards. But if has anyone made cannoli at home before? Have you done this? Are you excited? Tell me in the chat. Let me know. And Rich, when you can, we can come down and I'll show you what I'm working with today. Not yet, said Jennifer. That's great. I love newbies. That's great. No, never made it. Never made it. Excited to learn. Oh, this will be great. Oh, perfect. Okay, great. Well, you'll be surprised at how simple they are, I have to say. And once you start making your own cannolis at home, there's really no going back. You're just going to want to make them all the time. Yes, not made them, but they always look good. Gluten-free. They can be gluten-free. We'll talk about that a bit. Never made them, but want to learn. Hi, Maria from Long Island. All right. Well, to get you started here, so we've got a couple of key things that you will need. The first are these cannoli molds. So hopefully you have these. If you haven't purchased these, I would. And once you have them, you never have to buy them again. You reuse them over and over and over. And anytime you want cannoli, you can make them. But you see, these are like a nice standard size. You can also get smaller ones. And funny enough, we're also going to make some mini cannoli today using a wooden spoon. So if for some reason you don't have these molds and you really do want to make cannoli, you can use a wooden spoon handle as well. And that'll be really, really fun trick to kind of pop out some fun minis on the fly. To shape our cannolis, I do also have ring cutters. So this is what we're going to use to cut them out. If you don't have ring cutters, you can use a drinking glass. You can use any sort of round bowl and cut around it. Anything that you need to do is fine. For my minis, I've got little mini ring cutters, which are so much fun. And then ingredient wise, we've got sort of a pantry staple mix with a couple of fun things thrown in. So I do have all purpose flour, and somebody was asking if these could be gluten free. I would just opt for a gluten free, like all purpose baking blend. That would be a good substitute. I've got a little salt that's kind of enhance the flavor of our shells really nicely. We're also going to use a little salt in the filling just to kind of bring it to life. A little bit of sugar for the shells as well, kind of get that even browning, a little bit of sweetness, just a touch. I've got butter for richness. So this is just kind of unsalted room temperature butter. If it's cold, that's okay too. But I did sort of cube it up a little bit just to kind of get it started. We're going to be doing our mixer today. What is the size of my large ring cutter? This is a 4 inch. So I've got a 4 inch cutter here. So if you got something that it's about 4 inches, that would be good. And Rich just threw up the recipe in the chat for you guys in case you're missing it. So you'll have that as well. I've got one egg, and I'm actually going to use the egg white as sort of like our glue to keep our shells together. And we're going to be using the egg yolk in the shells itself. So that's a nice no waste item there. And this is a fun one. I've got wine. Good morning. You can use Marsala for shells. That's sort of traditional is to use Marsala wine. If you have just a standard white wine they use for cooking and anything like that, you could definitely use that as well. So I have a white wine today. Just any simple white wine will do nicely. And actually what's interesting about using wine in the shells is it kind of creates those little bubbles in the shell that you might see in store-bought cannoli shells. And it does sort of delay gluten formation as well. So it makes it easier to roll out the dough. So that's really nice as well. Is that for cooking or sipping while baking? Great question. A little bit of both, depending on the time of day. And where do you get the cannoli shapers? When I go to Michael's, they send to a different. Oh, the chat just went up. But yeah, I would say you should be able to find them on I feel like I linked to it. If not, you can definitely order these online from different places. But check Michael's first. If for some reason you might have to order them online from Michael's and they'll ship it to you. That's definitely possible as well. For the filling, I've got confectioner sugar that's going to sweeten it and sort of stabilize our filling a little bit. I've got a tiny little orange here if you like orange zest or lemon zest or anything like that. And in the refrigerator waiting for me, I've got ricotta cheese and heavy cream. So the heavy cream we're going to beat, we're going to whip it up. It's going to add some lightness. And the ricotta, we're going to go in depth a little bit in a minute because that's kind of a key thing here that you're going to need to have prepped in advance a little bit. And yeah, great question on the wine. So if you do not want to use wine, you can actually use water in the place of it. And about, I believe the recipe is a half a cup of white wine. So a quarter cup of water and a quarter cup of apple cider vinegar does a really nice job. The vinegar kind of does what the wine will do in terms of acidity. So that's a really nice substitute there. And can you substitute the ricotta cheese with mascarpone or cream cheese? I would say part of it you can, but the beauty of ricotta is it's so traditional. It gives you that really nice, thick cannoli filling texture. You will find other recipes where it's mascarpone based or even cream cheese based. You can use any kind of filling that you like. You can even fill them with whipped cream if you want to, if you prefer. But ricotta is so nice and traditional. And speaking of ricotta, I want to show you what I've done to mine because it makes a huge difference in the final product. So if you went ahead and grabbed your ricotta from the store, you'll notice in the recipe that it does say drained. And so I have this sort of fun setup here where I just took a strainer, any sort of fine mesh strainer, and a little bit of cheesecloth. If you don't have cheesecloth, you can also just line your strainer with a paper towel. And if you can do this a day ahead, amazing. If you can't, we'll talk about like a last minute option. But what it does is when you get ricotta from the store, it's really moist. It's got a lot of moisture and a little bit of excess liquid in there. By letting it sit overnight, look how much we take out of it. So what this does is it really thickens up your filling nicely. It kind of gives you the best head start to getting that really creamy, thick, delicious filling. So if you have time, just letting it sit over a bowl overnight in the fridge is great. If you're doing this at the last minute and you're like, I just bought my ricotta, I want to make it right now, lay your ricotta out just on paper towels and kind of squeeze out some of the liquid that way. Paper towels underneath, paper towels on top. Squeeze it out just to kind of reduce some of that excess moisture as best as you can. And that'll kind of do the same job as well. So that's really helpful. All right, so I'm going to get this back in the fridge. We're going to start making our shells. And of course, for finishing our shells today, I also will have some melted chocolate, some pistachios, all that good stuff. But the shells are where we're going to start. So you can see I've got my ingredients set up here. I have a stand mixer with a paddle attachment. You can also do this just with a handheld mixer. You can even do it by hand if you want to. It's kind of a really simple dough. And what we're going to do first is just separate our eggs. So my egg white, I'm going to save, like I sort of talked about before, just to glue the shells together. That's going to really help hold them together as they fry. And my egg yolk is going to go into my wine. We're going to mix those to combine. So I've got a little fork here. Just going to give it a little mix. Can
Katie,
you?
is
Oh, yeah.
lactose-free ricotta an option?
It's so funny. I've never used lactose-free ricotta. I would say, yeah, it should be an option. Absolutely. As long as it's got a similar texture, I don't see why not. It sounds great. Yeah, it's amazing now. Like the substitutions that are available are kind of amazing. All right. So I'm going to get my dry ingredients in first. So my flour going in, my sugar, my salt, and I've got my butter. So I'm just going to mix the dry stuff just for a second, make sure everything is really evenly combined. And then I'm going to get in my butter. So my butter is just cubed, room temperature. Cold is fine as well. And basically what we're doing is we're just going to beat this up for about a minute just to get into sort of like pea-sized bits, same as you would with something like pie dough. Can you substitute with whipped cottage cheese? Ooh, I don't see why not. Give it a shot. I think so. Just try to reduce that excess moisture as best you can. You know, cottage cheese is going to have a slightly different texture, a little less smooth, a little bit more chunky style. But yeah, I don't see why not. Let's see. All right, so we're gonna give that a couple of seconds. I'm gonna set this egg white aside for later. I've got a little brush ready to go. That's gonna help me out. And yes, I did. So half a quarter cup apple cider vinegar, half a cup, quarter cup water. Is it a half cup wine in the recipe or a full cup? I don't remember. I think it's half. So keep to that same ratio, just half water, half vinegar. I believe it's half a cup. All right. Just beating this up just a little bit more to break it down. And you do want little bits of butter kind of running throughout because that's going to give us that really flaky shell that we want. You could also do this in a food processor. Should be even faster. All right, so let's give it a check. And if there's any big chunks of butter in there, we'll just kind of break it up with our fingertips. It's looking pretty good. Excellent. All right. So now that we've got everything mixed, we're going to go ahead and add our wet stuff. And you see, by just kind of incorporating our egg yolk with our wine, it's going to go in really nice and evenly. I'm not going to get any little bits of egg yolk kind of running through my dry stuff. It'll just be really nice and smooth. Yeah, and it's funny, Kim. I would say it for this one, room temperature is fine. Yeah, you can use cold as well. I haven't noticed a huge difference between using cold butter and room temperature, only because it's such a small quantity. Yeah, it's only 2 tablespoons, so it's, it doesn't make up the bulk of it like it is with pie dough. You have so much butter to that fat to dry ratio is so much bigger. Okay. All right, and we don't want to overwork this, so I'm just going to let it come together for a few seconds, and then I'm going to bring it together by hand the rest of the way. So if you look in your mixer and you're like, oh, that doesn't look together, that is fine. Because you'll notice there are going to be wet spots and dry spots. And we don't want the mixer to be doing all of that because some areas are going to get overworked in the process. So just like this, shaggy style, I'm going to take it out. And if for any reason, maybe your butter didn't incorporate that evenly, that butter hydrates the dough. So if it didn't do that job, after you do this step, if you notice it's still a bit dry, you can add an extra splash of wine. Or the wine substitute that you're using, that would be fine. But all I'm going to do is kind of push it away from me using my palms. So I'm just kind of bringing it together. And you'll feel that there are some areas that are a little bit more wet and sticky and some areas that are a little bit dry.
How
So
cold should the butter be, Katie?
yeah, mine is room temperature. Yeah. But yeah, we mentioned it could be cold as well. That would be fine. Just as long as you get it to that pea-sized state. All right. So do like one more knead, and then we're going to let this dough rest because any gluten that we built up as we were kneading this to combine needs to relax so we can easily roll out our shells. If we try to roll it out now, it's just going to shrink back on me every time I cut out a circle. So if for any reason you're rolling out your dough and you're like, wow, this is really shrinking back, it's that gluten. So just give it a little time. And the dough really will hydrate as it rests also. So even if it looks a little dry right now, it's going to all come together in the fridge. If for any reason it doesn't come together like this, one more little splash of wine is fine. All right, so we've got our disc. I'm going to just wrap it up. And this needs to rest for about, I would say about half an hour. You can also make it ahead. If you, let's say like you want to get the whole family making cannoli on a Saturday, you can make this dough on Friday and leave it in the refrigerator overnight. And then it'll be ready to roll out the next day. So just by kind of pressing it into a disc, you see it comes together really nicely. And then we're going to be ready to work with it. Yeah, actually, so apple cider vinegar itself, it's a kind of fruity to begin with. You won't really taste the vinegar. It will kind of like cook out as the shells cook a little bit. Yeah, I think it's a perfectly fine substitute. If you want to aid the sweetness a little bit, you could use grape juice in the place of water with a little bit of the vinegar also. And that'll give it some acidity, but also some sweetness as well, if you prefer. Could give that a try too. All right. And I'm going to start up my oil in the back. So I've got a pot of oil, about 2 or 3 inches of oil in there. I'm gonna a little light. If you have 3 inches of oil, that's great. Anything that's neutral, like a canola oil or vegetable oil, or any frying oil you prefer, that would fit you. All right, and I'm going to put this one in the fridge, and I'm going to grab out the one that I already chilled so we can work with it.
Karen's wondering, could you sub apple cider instead of apple cider vinegar?
Oh, that'd be interesting. I haven't tried with apple cider, only because same deal as the grape juice. The apple cider is going to carry its own sugar along with it. I'd try it. I don't know. You might taste apple cider. There's a good chance you're going to get like an apple flavor out of that guy. But you can try, experimentation when it comes to baking is always kind of fun. But, then again, you don't want to make a whole recipe and then be like, oh, I don't like it. So it's a tricky line. I know for sure that, the apple cider vinegar will work nicely. Daisy likes it. Daisy's like, that sounds good. Do it. Try it. I would do a portion. I would even thin it with a little bit of water. Just to kind of thin it a bit. All right, so here's where we're going to have fun. So we're going to roll this out. I've got my dough nice and chilled. Yeah, ooh, and that's a great question. So if you do want to make chocolate cannoli, whenever I turn something chocolate, I typically substitute about a quarter of the amount of flour for cocoa powder. So in this case, I think it was 2 cups of flour. I would even do like a quarter cup of that as cocoa and do the rest flour. And that'll give you a nice cocoa finish. A little chocolate cannoli going. All right, so what's even easier is if you work with half the dough at a time. So you could even leave this in the fridge and start with this half, or if you really feel confident that you're going to go through it pretty quickly, you could just even leave it out and work with it that way. I'm going to lightly dust my surface with flour, just so it's ready to go. And these have to be pretty thin. They're going to be about 1/8 of an inch thick. So however you roll out your pie dough or tart dough, you're going to want to go a bit thinner than that. And always move it around. Make sure it's always got room to move. It's not sticking to anything. And it is a firm dough. If for any reason it's sticky, just add a little bit more flour, but you should be pretty good. And I actually worked with somebody once who used to do this in a pasta sheeter. They used to sheet their cannoli, which I think is kind of fun. If you have a pasta attachment, it's kind of a good one. The quantities of the mixture, yeah. So maybe Rich can throw it in the chat one more time or scroll up. Yes. Thank you so wow. Rich is on it. Rich is like, I got this. All right. So this is a bit of a workout, but keep going. You want it really thin. Moving it the whole time. And in the meantime, like I mentioned, you do want to have your oil ready. So we're bringing 2 to 3 inches of oil in a pot to about 350 degrees. You'll see in a minute, I've got a candy thermometer in mine just to keep an eye on the temperature. So if you have one of those, that's great. You see, it's getting thin enough that I'm starting to see my hand through a little bit. That's good. I'm not worrying too much about the shape because I'm just going to be using my cutters. Always moving it around. Almost there. So this makes a good amount. Not a huge batch. You can double it, but it will make enough for sure. All right, I think we're looking pretty good on this one. So I can almost see through. It's about the thickness of, I would say, like a little thinner than a piece of cardboard. I can almost see the shadow of the cutting board kind of through my dough, really nice and thin. Oh yeah, so the cannoli shapes. Yeah, well, okay, so the cannoli shapes, yeah, we sort of talked about, I think you can order them. Rich, I don't want to call you out, but I can order the cannoli molds on Michael's, right? Michael's
Yes,
on
I'll
board?
go ahead
Yeah.
and pop in a link there.
Oh, perfect. Haha, he's popping the link. And yeah, the key to it not tearing is to always keep your surface floured and to always move. You know, it's tempting sometimes. You're like, oh, I'm almost there. I'm going to keep rolling. And it's sticking in the middle. And then you go to pick it up. Don't cheat yourself. Keep it moving the whole time. Even if it slows you down a bit, you should always be able to do this, whether it's with pie dough, cannoli dough, anything that you've got. You do always want to keep it moving. I was going to see if I could sneak it with a smaller cutter. All right, let's go for this. And if it's too big, I'm going to switch to the smaller one. So this is my 4-inch. I was trying to get away with like a 3.5. Let's see. Yeah, I think I can get it. We'll go with one bigger, and then we'll go a little smaller in the next one. Just want to get as many cannolis as I can. But let's see. Yeah, I think we could just make it. Could just make it. All right, so this is a 3.5. So I got a 3.5 and a 4. We're gonna go with that. So I'm gonna cut them all out. Now the thing we don't want to do is let this dough dry out. So I'm working pretty quickly. If you want to take your time a bit or take a break at any point, just take a piece of plastic wrap and just lay it over, or any sort of tea towel, just to keep it really nice and moist. And we're going to go as close together as possible just to make sure I have to roll out the least amount of scraps as possible. Because with a dough like this, the downside is when it comes to the scraps, you are going to want to let the dough rest a bit before you re-roll your scraps, or else you're going to have problems with it shrinking. So all of these scraps I'm going to kind of pile up. We'll move on to our next dough when we're ready. And then those we're going to let rest a little bit before we re-roll. So here's where the fun happens. So I've got my cannoli molds. Now, the key to wrapping these, you'll find if you're new to doing this, you're either going to get ones that open up in the fryer, that get stuck on the mold. Those are kind of the two things that can happen. So to avoid that, what you want to do is, if you went a little smaller like I did, I'm just going to stretch it just a touch so it's a little bit more oval. And when you wrap it around, you're pretty loose. You don't want to go too tight on the mold. I should be able to kind of move my mold inside at all times. And here's where our egg white comes into play. I'm going to take a little bit of that egg white that we saved. You don't even have to add water or anything to it. And I'm just brushing just right on this edge as my glue. And I'm going to glue together. Now, when it comes to gluing, now I don't want to press on my shelf, so I'm going to put my finger inside the mold and just use my other finger just to stick it really well to the other side. So I'm not pressing on the bottom. It's still nice and loose on my mold, but this is stuck really well. That's super important because without doing that, they're all going to open up on you in the fryer. So super important there. And you see it's like still moving. That's key. Don't throw it in there if it's sticking to the mold. Take it off, rewrap it. That's what we want. Let me check my oil really fast to see where we're at. We're almost there. I'm going to turn up the heat a little bit and turn off my house heat. There we go. Oh, great. And Rich threw that in the chat. That's awesome. Awesome. All right. So while we're waiting for the oil, let's wrap a few more. So again, nice and loosey-goose. Fold it around, make sure it fits. Going to take a little bit of my egg white. And again, instead of holding on the bottom and pressing, I'm going to put my finger inside the mold and just press against it to seal my edge here. Okay. Perfect. All right. Do a couple more and then I'm going to bring the oil over. Press it really good.
How big is the smaller ring, Katie?
It's 3.5. I kind of cheated it a little. I think 4, is a safer way to play. But I just really wanted a lot of cannoli, so I'm going 3.5. Sometimes in life, if you want 2 extra cannoli, you gotta go for a smaller cutter. The fancy design. Daisy, you gotta tell me about this fancy cannoli design. I don't know. I'm guessing that once you press the dough in the mold, you can no longer slide it under the dough. You can. You should be able to slide. It shouldn't stick to the mold. Yes. Yeah, you're going to see mini cannoli in a minute also, because I'm going to do that on a wooden spoon, which I think is like the most fun for kids. You hand a kid a little mini cannoli, and they're so happy. I feel like that would be, you would also have to alter the weight as well. Is that one about the cocoa? I think so. Yeah, the cocoa, as long as you substitute part of the flour for cocoa powder, like take out a 1/4 cup of flour and add cocoa powder in its place, that 1/4 cup, that should be perfect because you're keeping that ratio intact. All right, I'm going to bring over my oil over here so you guys can see. Let's wipe this off a little bit here. I'm going to bring over my portable. And the other thing you will want to have is a rack just to place the cannoli on as they fry. Yeah, we are almost there. We're at about 340, so we're perfect. I'm using canola oil today. Oh, and can they be air fried? I have not air fried cannoli, but I see no reason why that shouldn't work. I think that'd be fun. I do love I have an air fryer, and maybe I'll save one. I'll air fry one later and see how it works. We could absolutely try it. All right, so a couple things we're gonna need. We're gonna need a pair of tongs. This is super important to be able to remove the molds. Exactly, leave the gun, take the cannoli. And you will want a spider or some sort of slotted spoon to be able to lift them out of the hot oil. And like I mentioned, I've got a rack, and I set mine over just a piece of parchment paper on a baking sheet just to make clean, easy cleanup. So that would be good as well. All right. So let's start frying. We're pretty close. So I'm going to get one in here. So depending on your comfort level, I just sort of lower it right into the oil. You can also use your tongs for that. If you're wanting to save time and didn't want to fry them, could you use dough in a pizzelle maker? And while they are hot, form them into cannoli shells. The problem with these is they sort of, they really do set in place. It's a stiff dough. You can try it. That's more of like I feel like that's more of like almost like an ice cream cone type dough, which is a little different. Oh, mine opened. Bad luck on the first one. All right. All right, we're going to do the second. I might have cheated it too much with my 3.5. Let's give it a shot here. Nobody look at the first one. He's bad luck. All right, we're fine. So you do want to keep your oil around 350. And as your cannoli come out, you're going to slip them off the mold, and we're going to reuse the hot mold. So if you don't have a ton of these, I know it is a taco cannoli. If you don't have a ton of molds, don't worry, because we are going to reuse them as they fry. We keep getting these in. I'm going to try to press them really good so they're not going to open up on me. Fun fact about cannoli, if you don't want to use your molds, you can also just fry the dough and break them up. And if you've ever seen a cannoli dip with like cannoli filling, that's really fun too. Exactly, I will. Look how funny this looks. You could throw him back in. He could be a taco. He could be a perfect taco. All right. Just move these around a little bit. Make sure they're not sticking in the bottom of the pot.
Laura's wondering, and how long do you fry them again?
Until they're golden brown. Yeah, so depending on how thick you rolled the dough, the size of the cannoli, we're really looking for color more than anything else. I'm going to do one of these big guys, but you see my 4-inch is pretty big. It really overlaps quite a bit. which we don't really need, but we'll do one big one for funsies. You can see mine are already starting to get nice and golden brown. And don't overload, like I've got 5 in there, but really that's, you know, pushing it. I wouldn't do more than 4 or 5 at a time. Let's see, we're looking pretty good on a couple of these. Got some good color happening. Now, if you take them out while they're too light, they're just going to be a little bit doughy in the center. So be patient. Move this so you can see when I pull them out.
Kim's wondering, once you wrap the cannoli dough around the form, could you slide it off the form and fry the cannoli without the form?
Yes, as long as it's set on the form. So yeah, like if they're too light, once you slip them off, they're just going to pop open. Once they're set, like theoretically right now, I've got this really nice golden brown guy. So depending on how non-feeling your fingers are, if you've been baking for years, you're probably like me and you can't feel anything. If that's the case, you can hold the cannoli and you could slip out the molds. Oh, well, not this one. This is sneaky. There. There we go. And theoretically, if you saw this and you were like, oh, it's too light, I want to throw it back in, at that point you can. Let's go this down. I can always. And if for some reason your heat is getting high, just make sure you keep an eye and turn it down. I'll switch to these tongs because these are a little bit better for me. You also put a towel around the cannoli before you pull. If it's too hot for your hands, just take a towel. And so as these cool, we can use these again. So you could set them aside, you could put them on a plate. These are looking pretty good. So we have these really nice shells. Look at this guy. And you can see those little bubbles, those little crispy bubbles, thanks to our wine. It's really nice. All right. All right, so let's get a couple more in here. And we'll roll out the rest of our dough in a minute because I don't want to run out when we're filling. We'll do one more batch and then we'll move on to our filling after that. All right. So pretty. They smell so good. Yeah, it's funny. If you let them cool too much, so the downside is if you let them cool completely, I mean, of course, we won't be able to reuse these then that quick. But also they tend to stick if they cool too much. So I would say if you, for any reason, if they're too hot for you to handle, take any sort of towel, hold the cannoli in the towel and use your tongs to slip off the shell from the mold. That would be better than letting it cool completely, just to make sure that they're going to release. All right. So let's quickly roll out this dough. So we have some more. Nice and floured. And again, we're going to move it the whole time. I like a little cannoli factory over here. Love it. A volume. So yeah, it depends on how much, how big your pot is. And you can use a much smaller pot. Somebody asked about the volume of the oil. It's really about the size of the pot. I would say as long as you have 2 to 3 inches in there. So, in this pot, for example, I think I have about 48 ounces, but it's a wide pot just so I could fry off a lot at a time. You could also just fry off 2 at a time and use this much smaller pot with less oil. That would be totally fine also. That way you don't have a whole bunch of oil, you know, that you then have to store for frying for later. I'm going to pause my oil while I roll these guys. Oh, that's smart. Yeah, you could. Somebody asked if you could freeze the dough. I would say even better to kind of make all the cannoli shells in advance. And then you could even freeze your shells. That way you fry them all off at once. You could freeze them in an airtight container. And then whenever you want to make fresh cannoli filling, you could just fill them right up. That would be fun. But you can make the dough ahead. I would say I should work well to freeze it, but I would say make it a day or two ahead and just refrigerate. Yeah. Once you have the dough glued together, can you pull out the metal piece? Yeah, the problem is so they won't hold their shape until they're set in the oil. So as long as they have set, that's when you can remove the mold. It's a good workout. I'm so excited. I love cannoli. My husband's going to be excited too. I think this is his favorite dessert. And my daughter requested that I make one without chocolate chips because she does not eat chocolate. She's very strange in this house. All right, here we go. We got a few more ready to fry. That way we'll have lots to fill and lots to dip. We're going to dip some in melted chocolate. Oh, and I don't want to forget the minis. So for mini guys, so I've got probably a 1.5 or 2 inch cutter. I'm going to cut out some minis as well. So cute. And yeah, you can definitely reuse the oil. I would say anytime I'm frying, I would get, depending on what you're frying. So like obviously if I'm frying dessert, I'm not going to then use that oil for frying fish or anything, although you probably could. But I will reuse the oil at least twice. Yeah, no reason to discard it after the first time unless it's really, gotten dark or, got little bits in there. You could strain those out. But yeah, definitely always reuse your oil for sure. All right. So I've got my same molds from before. They're pretty cool. If for any reason they're still hot, just sort of wait them out a little bit. But same deal. I'm just going to pop a few more in there and we're going to do a couple minis at the same time.
Jesse's wondering what size is your board?
This guy? Oh, he's big. I would say maybe like 18 by 24. Something like that. It is a good size for rolling dough. It's true. And I like that it has these grooves because I put things in there so they don't move around. It's always helpful, even for like carving meat. I made a brisket the other day and it caught like all the juices. That worked out pretty good. All right, we'll get one more in and then we're going to do the mini guys. So the minis, you want some sort of a spoon with a round handle. Oh, one more opened. Oh, you sneaky taco. Hey, you sneaky taco. But a round handle, so it's going to keep that shape. So I've got one here. It's pretty small. It's probably like a centimeter or so. If you have a bigger one, that's great too. That's even better because you'll have more room for your filling. But same deal, you're just going to wrap it around a little cannoli. Seal it up real good. But make sure it's got a little bit of room. Like somebody asked before, can you still slide? You should be able to still slide. All right, you ready? And you want to hold the spoon in the oil until your shell is set, or just let it sort of sit there. And that's going to hold. I know, it's so cute. The downside is unless you have multiple spoons, you got to do like a one spoon at a time kind of deal. But they do come out really cute. Okay, let's take out that one we lost here. You guys are looking pretty good. All right, in the meantime, I've got some chocolate. So today I have milk chocolate and I have some white chocolate. I'm just going to melt this in the microwave so we're ready to go. All right, let's take out a couple of these guys. We'll move these over. All these cannolis. Yeah, for the minis, I would say even look how cute. For the minis, you don't even need a tip. I would say go tipless. Or you could use like a small round tip. But yeah, no need really on the minis to use a tip. Unless you want to make it fancy, you can use like a little star tip. Would be cute. All right. Now, if you're going to pull them off and for any reason they're sticking to your molds, it might be that, you know, they were sort of sticking to begin with. So just remember to really keep them loose before they go in the oil. Cool. All right, last one here. Check on our mini. Got one more big guy. And once he's set on the spoon, like this guy's kind of set, if I want to go a little bit darker, I could just slide him off, pop him right back in, get my next one going. All right. So cute. Yeah, he's ready. Oh, look at this little tiny. Oh, you're so tiny. You're so small. Yeah, little you. Okay. All right. All right. So we got our last ones in here. I'm going to set these aside. Save the minis for later. We'll move into dipping. Let's see if our chocolate is ready. And you do want your shells to be cool before you dip in chocolate because you don't want to throw off the temper of your chocolate. We'll talk about that a little bit. Let's see. A little bit more of that.
Can you tell
Yes.
us a little bit about heating your chocolate? How long, and maybe
Yeah.
some pointers for that?
Yeah, definitely. So I would say, and actually I'm going to leave this here and I'm going to get one more. Depending on the kind of chocolate that you're using. If you are new to dipping things in chocolate, the beauty of something like candy melts, for example, is that they don't need to be tempered. So tempering is when you kind of bring down the temperature of melted chocolate and you agitate it at the same time in such a way that it sets up really smooth and shiny and it sets up hard. That's a good temper. So to quickly temper chocolate, if it is traditional chocolate, as you can see here, so I have these like, we call these like fevs or little chocolate chunks that I've got here. These are a nice high quality chocolate. If I'm tempering chocolate, I'm going to melt it about 2/3 of the way, whether it's over a double boiler or in the microwave. And once it's 2/3 of the way melted, I'm going to take it out and just stir it until it melts all the way. And what that does is it kind of agitates and cools it down at the same time without more advanced methods. And it kind of brings it to that tempered state. So I'm going to let mine go for another minute or so, just to really finish off. And I'm going to pull out these guys. I got a cute little mini here ready to go. Got one more big guy here. All right. Perfect. All right, so I'm going to move the oil out of the way so we don't have to worry about that. And we'll move this as well.
Perfect.
And we're going to get out all of our fun stuff. So we've got our shells here. We're going to have our melted chocolate in a minute. And you'll notice I'm doing this before I fill, and that's important because we want to let that chocolate set up completely. So once we pipe in our filling, it isn't going to get all messed up with that melted chocolate along the way. So you see, I melted it about 2/3 of the way. I still got big chunks of chocolate in there. And all I'm doing is just stirring to combine, making sure it melts. And that's just a nice temper. This is actually milk chocolate that I have today because I was running low on dark. So I went with milk. I thought it'd be a fun twist. But milk chocolate is actually has higher fat and higher sugar than dark chocolate. So it kind of melts at a lower temperature. So it may require even less melting when you're working with milk chocolate or something like white chocolate compared to dark. And if you're using something like I am, you can use candy melts. I just happen to have white chocolate chips on hand. If you have chips, you'll notice that they never quite melt as smoothly as you want. So adding something like coconut oil or a little bit of a neutral oil like canola oil will just make it easier to dip your shells into, a little bit more liquid. But candy melts are definitely great for that also. So I'm just working it. Yeah, and these are like my little silicone bowls. I love these. I use these all the time. I got them from Michael's maybe like, I don't know, a few months ago for a project. And I find I use them like every day. I don't know why. I'm like obsessed with these bowls. They're like nice and squishy. They're easy to hold. Great for the microwave. Yeah, these are fun. So as soon as we're pretty smooth, which we are, we're ready to start dipping. So you can drizzle these as well, which is also fun. But if you want to dip, you could also grab things like finely chopped pistachios, sprinkles, anything that you love. That would be great for this purpose. And all I'm going to do is making sure that my shells are completely cool, which these ones are. They're like nice and firm and crisp and ready to go. You can go ahead and just kind of plunge in as deep as you feel like going. So if you just want to do the edge, you could just dip your edge, kind of wipe off a bit of the excess, and then you've got a nice coated side here. So if you want to do some plain, you could do both sides. We can dip and then dip into our pistachio would be really nice, or even just kind of sprinkle with our pistachio. That's kind of fun. You could really have a lot of fun with these. And we are going to chill these until they're set. This way our filling is not going to get all smushy along the way. And it gives us a minute to make our filling, which is helpful also. I've got two sides. And I'm just putting it on clean parchment. Oh, hi. Yeah. If you'd like to, oh, awesome. Yeah, Rich just said definitely post your pictures if you make these. And yeah, as Susan said, so this class will be on YouTube in about 48 hours. So if you do want to double back, if you're making these and you want to kind of do it along, you can definitely do that. And I am going to drizzle some of these as well. So I'm not going to go too crazy on the dipping, although I do want to do one more with pistachios because I love pistachios. Okay. So fun. All right. Perfect. All right. The rest we'll leave plain. So we get these in the fridge. We're going to start doing our filling and then we'll be ready to fill. And I'm so sorry. I know we're like running long. This was a big class, you know? It's a big day. It's cannoli day. I think we can pull it out in 10 minutes. I think we can. Okay. We're gonna speed round. We got this. So again, I've got my ricotta. If anyone missed it, we've reduced the excess liquid here. That's all going away. I'm gonna whip my cream real quick. Dun, 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 dun. How many days? Oh, and that's a great question. So if you do make the shells ahead, they will stay crisp at room temperature for about 3 days if you store them in an airtight container. Past that, you can freeze them if you want to. That would be really easy. That way they'll stay nice and fresh. All right, here we go. So we've got heavy cream, we've got ricotta, we've got confectioner sugar, we've got any sort of flavoring that you like, be it vanilla, a little orange zest or lemon zest. Would be lovely. Get this in. Get my cream in.
How long will the shells stay crisp?
So you don't want to fill them. They were saying once they're filled, you definitely don't want to fill ahead of when you're serving. You want to fill them like right before you serve. Keep them as crisp as possible. Right? Mhm. All right, so I've got piping bags. I've got all my stuff. I'm whipping this guy. Oh my gosh. Kimberly, that's so funny. Awesome. Kimberly was saying that she's Italian, but her mom would not make them for her. That's so funny. I would think Italian moms would be like all about making cannoli. All right, so whipped cream, I'm adding a little bit of my favorite vanilla bean paste. You can use vanilla extract. I'm adding a little bit of orange zest. That's totally optional. And you can even split up this filling. Like I have some like blueberry jam. I have some Nutella. You can kind of turn this into multiple flavors really easily. But to make sort of our base flavor here, and I've got salt. I'm going to take out my nice dry ricotta. And you can see as I lift it out, you see the difference in texture after draining out that excess. You can see it's just a little bit more firm, which is lovely. And I'm just going to fold these things together really nice and gently. So I'm going to start with about half of my ricotta. And I'm going to add some of my powdered sugar. We're just going to fold to combine, just kind of breaking it up a little bit in there, really gently folding. To add in our confectioner sugar. And there is a range in the recipe of the confectioner sugar. If you like your filling a little bit less sweet, you can go on the lower range of that. If you like it a little bit sweeter, you can go a little bit more. I'm going to add in the rest of my ricotta. You could add a pinch of cinnamon would be really nice. Anything that you love in here. And the beauty of this is there's no eggs or anything in the mix. So you can taste it when you're done and see, do you want to add a little bit more sugar, a little more vanilla? Gently folding till it's nice and smooth. And I've got some mini chocolate chips also that are going to go in here. Let's give it a taste. Oh, that's nice. Yes, and Susan, Rich has the recipe. Yeah, it might be in the chat if you scroll up a bit. Oh, there we go. Wow, Rich is on it. Rich is always on it. Okay. So don't overfold this, just enough. I'm going to save a little in a bowl so I don't get in trouble with my 4-year-old. She's got hers. Okay. The rest I'm going to add, we're going to keep it traditional for now. I've got some chocolate chips going in. As much or as little as you like. And you see it's like nice and thick. So you could use a star tip for this if you like more of a decorative shape. You could go tipless like I'm going to do here.
Katie, I know that you're a huge
Yes.
fan of the vanilla bean paste.
Yeah. I just saw
Um,
your question. I was like, yeah, I just
Catherine's
love
wondering
it.
Catherine's wondering, would you suggest the vanilla bean paste because it won't add as much moisture to the mixture there?
I'll be honest with you. I just really love vanilla bean paste. The moisture that extract will add is minimal. So extract is totally okay here. No reason why it wouldn't be, but I do love about the vanilla bean paste that it adds the little flecks of vanilla beans running throughout. I feel like in the chat, people are like, "Oh, I bought it just now." I love vanilla bean paste. I can't say enough about vanilla bean paste. I feel like it's probably my favorite thing, to be honest with you. But I just love it. But yeah, extract will definitely work. No reason why you can't use extract. All right, so I'm cutting a hole about a 1/2 inch or so. You could cut it a bit bigger also if you want to, or you could use a tip if you prefer, star tip, round tip, whatever you like. Pull these guys out. And we also have our plain ones as well. Got a couple of those. I got a couple of my minis, which are so cute. And then we're just going to fill. So somebody had asked before, how do you keep them crisp? You definitely want to make sure that you're filling right before you're serving. So you can store this filling in a bag, in your fridge, just keep it ready to go. Your shells are ready to go. And then when dinner is over and you're ready to serve, just kind of, put them all together. But let's see, let's start with this guy. So you're just going to go right in on one side and just kind of rotating your bag just a bit until you get to the end. Turn it around to the other side and same thing. Filling it all the way up just until you get to the end. You've got a really nice cannoli.
Nina is wondering, we missed her
Yeah.
question earlier. Sorry
Oh,
about
she's right. Yeah,
she's wondering, how do you properly discard of the oil once it's been spit?
I know. It's sort of, this is the thing, right? I got this thing from someone the other day where it actually turns it into a solid. It like soaks it, which is amazing. But depending on your town, I feel like different places have like different regulations. But yeah, however you responsibly discard of oil in your house.
And
It's a tricky
Jesse is
one. Yeah.
asking, if they switch everything to vanilla bean powder, is it the
Oh,
same measurement as using vanilla extract? Or with the
yeah. I have the powder also. Are you asking about the paste or the powder?
I guess both might be helpful,
Well,
no?
I suppose. Yeah, I do one for one. The vanilla bean paste, funny enough, it is a little bit on the sweeter side. It has like some sugar in it, actually. So a little bit different than, vanilla extract is mainly, I find it's like mainly alcohol. Like it's alcohol forward with a little vanilla in there. But if you are using the vanilla bean paste in the place of your vanilla extract, you could really just go one for one. Vanilla bean powder is a little bit different, but that's really interesting also. I use that sometimes for like macaroon shells and things like that. But the powder can be fun. And same idea, like a 1-to-1. Sometimes you can get away with using more or less, but you can always taste and see, what level you like. Look how cute these are. Oh my gosh, they're so tiny. But yeah, 1-for-1 is great. Yeah, how long will the filling stay in the fridge? Yeah, so I wouldn't make it more than a day ahead. I would say like same day is best with the whipped cream, just to keep it really light. If you do want to make it further ahead, you could get your ricotta ready, get everything ready, and then just kind of fold it together. Ooh, one of these. Give them a nice dusting, powdered sugar, which is so pretty. I've got like a little cornet here. You could use a piping bag. If you do want to go the route of more of a drizzle, you could just use your spoon and just give it like one of these. So you get like a fancy cannoli. But these are so fun. Thank you guys so much. I know we're like bumping right up against the time, but thank you guys so much for joining me today. I will be here eating cannoli. I hope you make these. Definitely come by next week if you can for another class, which would be so much fun. I think next week is, what do we got? Oh, we have Easter cake pops, which should be really fun. But thank you guys so much. What are you using for the chocolate? Oh, this is a cornet. This is like a paper piping bag that I made. I can show you that afterwards if you want to stay behind. But for anybody else, yeah, you could use a piping bag. You could just drizzle with a spoon. That would be fun too. Thank you guys so much. Thank you for joining. Yes, thank you, Rich, for being so on it. Rich is amazing. Thank you guys so much. Enjoy your cannolis. I will be here eating cannolis.